So if you are an API designer, you always return your data in specific format. If you are designing your endpoint for employee, you return employee model or DTO. These two are different concepts, right? So if you're more interested in DTO or model or entity, just go and watch this video. Okay, well, coming back. So if you are designing your endpoint for product, you will return product type of DTO or model, right? With this approach, every time your API response is gonna behave in different format, right? Your API response are not consistent. So to make your API response constant as per the market practice, you can create a common API response model and then return your data in that wrapper. So that means, that doesn't mean if you have a common API response model, you don't need to return your a product, your employee or other classes. You are still going to use that, but in specific format. These type of data always going to be wrapped in one super class. That class we are going to call common API response model, right? Okay, now let's take a look how you can implement this common API response model. Look at this code first. So I have these two API endpoint. These are just a dummy endpoint that I have created. So I have this API endpoint which is returning weather forecast, and there is other API endpoint which is returning person class, right? Now if I go there and try it out, execute, I have a response where ID, date, temperature and summary, right? Different types of model, and that's it. Now if I go for other my API endpoint and I say okay, try it out, send me data for person 1, so it is giving me ID, name, age. So that means both of the API endpoint have their own sort of response model, right? So it is weather forecast, and the other API endpoint is returning this person response, right? Person model. Now I wanted to get rid of this. I'm tired of creating different types of response model. It is very hard for my client who are consuming my API endpoint that every time they have different sort of API response model, right? It is very hard for them to understand. So to overcome this, I wanted my API endpoint to be market standard. I want my all classes, all my API endpoint just to follow one common response model. What I need to do? Okay, I can create one super class. Okay, and how can I do that? So let's go to Solution Explorer. So we need something which is common, right? So what I have done, I have created common folder and I put this class over here. So API response, this is already made. I have made this before this video. So what I will do, I will try to create one more brand new super class, exact replica of this, and we will talk about this step by step. So we don't need to return every time different classes, every time different type of API response model. Okay, so let's do one thing. So let's say stop it. Okay, and then let's add a new class. I will say add a new class and I will call it API response. So I'm going to return this as a API response class. Okay, I'm good. Now what we need, this is fine, you can create an empty constructor. So we need 4 key properties. First we need to know that if it is successful or not. Okay, so let's say success. If it is successful response, we will return it as a true. If it is not successful, we will mark this field as a false. Okay, now what else we need after success? We may need a message, right? Yes, we need a message. So if it is successful, why it was successful. If it is fail, why it was fail, right? If it is needed, we can return that kind of message as well. Now the important thing, we need a data, right? So what we will do, so now since this is going to be super class, I don't know what type of data. Let's say if it is a employee type of data, this class, super class, should be responsible for returning that employee data. If it is a product type of response, my super class should be able to accommodate, to adjust that product class here as well, right? So I don't know the type, so I will make it generic. Let's call it generic, and I call it data. Now this T is generic, so what I have to do, I will go here, I will declare it generic. Okay, now it is generic. Is there anything that we are missing? I think we are missing one point, and that is errors. Okay, so what do we have to do? I will just copy it, paste it, and let's call it because error could be multiple, right? There could be multiple error, or there could be single error. So I will call it INumerable, not this. I will call it INumerable, and let's call it errors. Here you go. Now it is not necessary that you always would have error, so let's make it optional. Now it is very possible when you have errors, you may not have the data right at that time. So what you will call it, you will make it optional as well. But these two fields is fine. Success is always either true or false. Message you may pass and you may not pass. So what you can do, you can initialize some value, let's say string.empty, right? And these two are the optional. Now let's fulfill our constructor. I don't need my default constructor to be shown here. What I can do, I need these things. So what I need to do here, okay, so let's copy this bool success first, right? Paste it here, first parameter. Then I need a message, so same string message, paste it here. Now I need our data, so what I would do, I will copy the data, t data, I will pass it here. And next I have errors as well, right? Since I am initializing my constructor, I will pass all those attributes here. Now we need to assign it. So what we can do here, so since these are the names are same, success S capital, let's do one thing. As a good practice, let's make it small, right? So parameter can be small here. These are the parameters, so let's make it small. Now success, assign the constructor success. I think I've messed up something here. It should be message, right? Okay, message, assign message. Okay, my Visual Studio is smart enough. Data also needs to be assigned by data. And then last is errors. So errors also needs to be assigned by errors, and your constructor is ready. So first step, these 4 key parameters. Second, set up your constructor. Then you need 2 methods here, right? One is successful and second is failure. So let's do one thing. So over here, let's create those methods. So I will say here public, then I would say let's make it static. Why static? I will talk later. So let's make it static, and I will call it this is my class type, right? Return generic. Okay, so this is superclass, and this would be subclass, superclass of whatever I pass here. Okay, now let's call it SUCCESS success response. Okay, and now in success response, what all I need, so since if it is successful response, definitely you need a data, right? So you can call it data, right? And data, you don't need to pass it now, question mark. Every successful response would have compulsory data, some sort of data, right? Now you can return some sort of message, so you can return a message as well. So what I will do, string message, and let's say if someone don't pass, assign something default message. Let's say request successful. Okay, this is my default message. Now what I need to do here, what I will do, I will just copy this. I will say return this class, superclass, and the subset whatever I will pass here, right? And I will call this constructor. This constructor I'm calling. Okay, so first is success, right? So since this is my successful response, I will call it true. Okay, second is data, right? no, message. Second is message, so I can pass a message, so message that I am receiving. Okay, now what is third? Third is data. Okay, now I can pass here third parameter as a data, right? Is there anything else that we need to pass here now? Let me see why it is still not happy. It is saying non member cannot be used like a method. Okay, so it should be new. I think it should be happy now. Is it? Or it's not? I think it's not. So there is some errors. I'm not passing any errors, so that is why it is shouting. So what we need to do here, I think we need to assign something default here, then it may happy. Okay, it is happy now. So this is my successful response, right? So this is your class ready with successful response. Now we need one more method which is for error response. Okay, now what I will do, let's just copy paste to save our time. So copy paste, instead of successful response, let's call it error response, right? In error response you won't have data, so just remove that. Okay, but you would have some message, so instead of successful I will call request failed. Okay, now if there is an error, that means there would be some errors, right? That means this enumerable will play a key role now, right? So I will pass here and let's make it, oh, it is already small, that is good. And now here so this constructor, right? So first constructor is accepting as success, so this is error response, so it should not be true, it should be now false, right? Now second is message. Okay, message I'm good. Third is data. Now I don't have any data, right? But still it is asking, so what I will do, let's say, hey, return default, right? Pass default, then errors. Definitely I should have some error if the response is false. So what I will do, I will pass this error to the constructor, and I'm returning these two methods now, success response and error response. Okay, now let's go to the controller, and since this is a static class, sorry, this is a static method, I don't need to create an object. I will just say here API response dot success response or dot error response, right? So that is why I have created this static. Okay, now let's go there to my controller, and what I will do here, let's focus on the first one. Okay, so since this is enumerable weather forecast, it has on return type. Now what I will do here, I will say API response, right? So your API response, go there and just wrap this whatever return type is here. Okay, so instead of now this one, what I will say, say this is my data, right? And what I will do now, I will say return what type of data, return this type of data, right? So this type of data. Okay, now keep in mind this thing is T, right? If you remember, when we have created a class over here, we are expecting a T, right, in successful response and error response both. So what I will do here, instead of T, I will pass my subclass, right, that I need this data, wrap this whole data in one common format that will be wrapped inside API response, right? Okay, now over here I will say dot, and I will say a success response and pass the data, and that's it, right? If I will pass the data over here, this data will come, this will be returned. Message I don't need to pass because there is already request successful. If you wanted to override this message, you can go to your controller, right, and pass the message here, comma, but I don't worry about that at this stage. So this is fine. Now let's return, right? You know what, before we just execute this, so let's do the same thing here. So API response, right, for person, wrap my subclass which is person with API response, and this is my T, right? Now I have to return that. Let's copy this everything, okay, and paste it here, remove this, and now instead of enumerable T, I will pass person as a T and I will say this is the response, and it should be happy now. Okay, now let's look at how are these two API endpoint behaves. Okay, I'm expecting this to be in the same format, though the return type is weather forecast and person, because I'm wrapping this into one common response model, which is API response. Right now, let's execute and see the magic part. Okay, so here we are on the Swagger now. So try it out, execute, and you look at the magic. So this was a successful response, right? So we have now success is true, message is request successful, and the weather forecast model would be wrapped inside data, right? This is the array, and then error, we don't have any error, so it is null, right? So that is the magic. So now you have one format. So let's just double check if we have the one format or not. So what I will do here, now I have person, let's say one, execute. I'm expecting same sort of response. You see, success true, successful response, message here, and your person class is wrapped inside data, right? And error is null. So though the endpoints are different, now you have one common API response. Okay, now coming to the error. What if there is an error, right? What we have to do here? So what we will do, let's go here and say try. Let's generate some error. Try, and let's say complete this try, and then say catch, right? Exception. Okay, and now what we have to do, if there is any exception, copy this one, paste it here, and instead of successful response, I will call it error response. And here I don't have data now, right? So what I will do here, I just need to pass the exception, and I can say exception dot message, right? So you see here, message is definitely request field, but there is some errors as well, right? So let's see, if I say comma here, what I'm expecting. Okay, so what we have done, we have overridden the EX, this message request field. Instead of that, if you wanted to replace, you can replace, otherwise, you can pass here as well. So let's do one thing, let's say EX dot message here, but this is enumerable errors, so we have to pass multiple errors, right? So what I will do for now, let's not call it enumerable. Okay, let's just call it error. Error, come on, error. So it's all up to you. If you wanted to return multiple errors, you can keep it enumerable, but over here I don't want to keep it enumerable. I wanted to return single error every time. Okay, so let's go there. We have to modify this as well, right? I don't need errors, it is just simple error, right? And string. Okay, let's call it error. Let's call it error. Is it happy or not? So I think it should be happy now. It should be happy now. We're just renaming everything errors to error, right? You don't need to pass it null now. Okay, let's pass it. Okay, so now I will go there and I'm returning ex.message. Okay, here I can return any error. Let's say I'm saying here, come on. I'm saying same message, let's say request failed. Okay, and I have to generate error. So what I will do, I will manually generate error, something I will say where errors. What I'm trying to do here, I'm let's say convert dot to int, right? And I will try to convert some sort of random character to integer, and it will fail. It should come to exception, and I should have some sort of errors, right? So I'm calling error response, message request failed, and whatever error I'm receiving, I'm passing an ex.message. Let's execute it now. Okay, so let's try it out. Execute. This time I'm expecting error. Okay, here you go. Success is false this time, right? Message is request field that we have passed from the controller, Data definitely we are expecting null, and error, the input string blah 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 was not correct format, right? So here you go. So you have same sort of response body, whether successful, whether fail, or different endpoints or different models. Now you have made your API endpoint up to the market standard. You have followed a best practice to design your API endpoint. So make sure whenever you are designing your API endpoint, follow this thing and create common API response instead of returning individual models. Okay, that's all for today's video. I will see you in the next video.